If you're new here, we're Embrace the Suck 21.
Yes, we are.
My name is Spencer.
And I'm in the corner. No, I'm kidding. I'm Daniel.
And look, Fawlty Towers, one of the greatest British sitcoms ever made. One of the greatest sitcoms made, period. So short, we couldn't just leave it alone.
No.
Y'all have been throwing Fawlty Towers ReOpened, the, I guess a 30-year documentary at us a lot. So we're going to give y'all one little last hurrah, Fawlty Towers.
Oh man, what a journey, dude. This whole show made me so anxious. More so than any other show we've watched. It's just like, oh my God, I'm like sweating with Basil. I'm like, what the hell? Why am I connecting? Why? I need to disengage from this character because he's going to lead me down into getting a heart attack.
Yeah.
So,
like watching Basil Fawlty in any situation is the equivalent of eating 10 Big Macs.
Yeah.
In terms of how much blood pressure it could give you.
Oh man, dude, what a great, like, it was. I say this a lot, but I really mean this. It was over too soon. Thank God it was, because it just left me so hungry for more. No, it didn't overstay its welcome.
It was the perfect amount. And it's still to be seen whether it's going to be rebooted or not. We keep hearing rumors. It's that John Cleese and his daughter are writing it, and it's set in the Caribbean, but we'll get to that at some point if it does.
If it does, that'll send ripples, because I'll put it this way: we can't have a current watch along to it, because that'll just we have to let it simmer some, and then we'll binge chunks of it if it does happen.
Or maybe because it's not going to be on BBC, because John Cleese wants it to be funny. We'll leave it there. It might be able to.
Yeah, maybe. That would be fun. That would be awesome, man. Oh, God.
Anyway, you ready to go in, Dan?
Yeah, man.
All right.
Always. Let's do it.
Let's go in. 3, 2, 1.
Sprechen Sie Deutsch?
I beg your pardon?
Entschuldigen Sie bitte, können Sie Deutsch sprechen?
I'm sorry, could you say it again?
You speak German?
Oh, German! I'm sorry, I thought there was something wrong with you.
30 years since it left our TV screens, Fawlty Towers is still acknowledged as the benchmark by which all other sitcoms are measured.
Funny enough, the people who seem to find it hardest to enjoy are the hoteliers. And they sit down thinking they're going to enjoy it, and after 3 minutes they think, oh no, because they can see what's going to happen.
Sorry.
The popularity of Fawlty Towers, I think, today is a lot to do with John.
This smack from head.
Also, the ordinary situations, because there's something that are kind of timeless. People can relate to these taboo subjects.
Tonight, for the very first time, John Cleese and Connie Booth, the show's writers and co-stars, are both breaking their silence to share their secrets of how this classic comedy was made, including an insight into their strained marriage.
It didn't save our marriage, but I think Fawlty Towers became a kind of refuge for our demons and angels.
The true cost of Manuel's comedy stunts.
I thought as I was going down, I could hear the angels singing. I thought, thank heavens it's the last shot of the show, because I can't get up.
And how the BBC almost let this comedy crown jewel slip through their fingers.
Head Something Light Entertainment. I'm afraid I thought this one as dire as its title, which I can't see being anything but a disaster.
Perhaps it's a dream. No, it's not a dream. We'll start with it. Right.
Let me tell you, man. Just going through all those scenes again, like it's still funny. It's a timeless comedy,
dude. Yeah. You know, I think that's the next. This is going to be the next show my wife and I binge.
Because
I haven't really introduced her to the stuff we've been binging.
Right.
You know,
talking in private, or maybe it was on one of the reactions. You said the next one you're going to show her is IT Crowd.
Yes.
So
yes, 100%. I can't wait for us to get done with that so I can just watch as she loses it. So,
you and me both, man. but that came out wrong.
Yeah, I
didn't
was
mean
like,
to
what?
say it like
You won't
that.
be there.
I won't be there.
No, but I'll relay the information. I'll relay
This
the
humor in
information.
here has got me fucked up. I blame that one and
No.
the beer.
It's
So-
awesome because it throws me right back, dude. It throws me
Yeah.
right back, to where we were when we saw these episodes, man.
Yeah, I agree. And like the one thing that Connie Booth, like that's one thing that I didn't recognize in the show because at the time we weren't really reading as much Patreon comments.
Yeah.
It wasn't the way jailbreaking for YouTube that I realized that Connie Booth was American and that her and John Cleese were married and that they were getting the splits and it wasn't
Crazy.
until reading the YouTube comments that I realized all that.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. All right,
man.
let's do it.
There were just 12 half-hour episodes of Fawlty Towers screened between 1975 and 1979, yet it remains a timeless classic.
Fawlty Towers survives because it's brilliantly made, brilliantly written, immaculately performed, precision comedy.
Do try to be agreeable this weekend, Basil. Now, have I got everything?
Handbag, knuckle dusters, flick knife.
I must say, it always feels to me as though there were many, many, many more episodes, and I think that's because of the richness of the stories and the characters.
Come on, then, give us a smile.
It was beautifully written and beautifully directed, and John and Connie and Andrew are wonderful people to work with, and I'm proud and grateful for that.
Thank you very much.
It's like falling on a banana skin. It's funny if it's not happening to you. If it does, it can be tragic. You could describe Fawlty Towers as a tragedy with laughs.
I'm telling you, if the good Lord is mentioned once more, I shall move you closer to him. Now, please.
I've been in some of the worst sitcoms, and will again, ever produced. And from the first moment in Fawlty Towers, you thought, oh, this is the best.
Are you joking? Don't worry, a bit of cheese went the wrong way.
The best bit about working on Fawlty Towers was the show itself, when it went out, and the reaction from everybody. And the fact that it's still being shown all over the world, and they keep sending us little checks.
I'm sitting here.
There's no lunch till 12.
I'm still having breakfast.
It's finished. All gone, breakfast kaput.
I'm having sausages.
He's not allowed.
Put that there. Look, I'm a doctor. I'm a doctor and I want my sausages.
It's nice to have that in the CV. I did a Fawlty Towers, and I worked with Ralph Richardson, Paul Schofield, Lawrence Olivier, John Gill, and John Cleese.
She's hysterical. Slap her. Murder! Slap her! Murder! Oh, spiffing. Absolutely spiffing. Well done. 2 dead, 25 to go.
John Cleese unleashed the rudest man in sitcom, the daddy of the dysfunctional, a character so tragic, so flawed, and yet so hilariously funny.
There it is.
John has created a wonderful comic creation in Basil Fawlty. He's just one of the classic comic characters of all time.
There's something about Basil which makes him a very good character for our times, I think, for our hyped-up, anxious, sort of rush-around times. He is the sort of symbol of mania and hysteria.
But there's more to this classic sitcom than just Basil Fawlty.
Basil?
There's his domineering, acid-tongued wife, Sybil. Dependable Polly, the overworked chambermaid. Dotty resident guest, the Major, and Manuel. Simply the most famous TV waiter in history, who's from Barcelona, don't you know?
There is too much butter on those trays. There is too much butter on those trays.
No, senor. What? Not on those trays. No, sir. Uno, dos, tres.
After 30...
Man, I'm trying not to pause too much in this, but just seeing cast members talk about their good times on the set. Like, that's how you know it's gonna be good.
Yeah.
If everyone involved is having a great time doing this. Like, especially that one guy at the beginning that was like, "I've been on the worst sitcoms of all time, and I knew this was great."
Yeah, I'm just like, oh man, it's just the whole vibe of the show. And you know that was he an anchor? He was like, it didn't feel so short, but it
Right.
really was short. It was
It
not
was.
a long series.
Yeah, if you were to make, I don't know, TV shows into like sandwiches, this is like a very stacked sandwich that
Yeah.
you feel like you've eaten like multiple sandwiches, but you only ate one sandwich.
Yeah, yeah, it's a yeah. I'm gonna think of the reference and I'll get back to you on that.
Yeah,
But yes, I agree, man.
2 years, the show's original producer has returned to the BBC archives to unearth the Fawlty Towers production files and rediscover their dusty details.
Here we have the programme costs. For the first episode in 1975, it was about £20,000, just over. John Cleese probably only got about £400 or something like that. Wow. We were real cheapskates. Terrible when you think about it. Absolutely amazing how little things cost in those days. But it was a cheap show, as demonstrated by the flexibility of the scenery. That's why it wobbled a bit from time to time, because we never had enough money to really structure it so it didn't wobble.
Thank you and good night.
We've got a drawing here.
I never noticed that. I
Yeah.
just thought that it was just the, if I may, faulty design
Yeah.
of the Fawlty Towers Hotel.
I think that's it's superpower, man. Is they didn't try to go overproduced.
Right,
You
right.
know,
They-
it's
they-
like this guy that's, man. Oh, I want to lean on the commenters, the people that are watching. There's this old sitcom I used to watch with my mother. It's called, I forgot, but the main character was Mrs. Bucket, but she always pronounced it bouquet, kind of, kind of like liven up. It was an old show from across the pond, too.
Oh.
And I forgot. It was Keeping Up Appearances. I'm not sure, but anyway, it's kind of like that. It's like I thought Basil Fawlty was polishing up a turd, kind of thing. Like
Oh, okay.
with like you said, like okay, it's shit, but he's making it his shit.
Right, exactly. My Nana may have watched the same show that you're talking about, Keeping Up Appearances. It's a familiar one because she always had PBS
Yes.
on, and that's where all these old melodramatic British shows were
Yeah.
being shown. So,
But like back in the day.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Back in
Whew.
the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
so,
anyway, but it's crazy. £20,000.
yeah.
I mean, back then that was probably some money.
Right. We had to lean on the Fred Dipna exchange of currency. Like
Yep.
7,000 was like 34. So I don't know. Someone correct us down
Yes.
below. We're too
Yes.
lazy to do it on our own.
Yes. Let us know.
Of the original set, there. And it's instantly recognisable, even though this was made long before the sets were actually designed.
Apart from being bashed, crashed into and knocked down, Fawlty's set also once famously flirted with flames.
Yeah. Oh, no, please. No. Please.
The fire sequence, yeah, I was hurt in that. That smoke was created with the use of two chemicals on each other, and they create the smoke. And you don't feel it through the jacket. This is the theory.
Fire! No! Yes! See? Look, will you get back in there?
It was getting very warm and hot. So I thought, this can't be right. Can we just take my jacket off? Took the jacket off, and it was red raw. It had acid burns.
Oh!
It started hurting. So if you ever see that episode, be sympathetic to my pain.
He's always whinging on about that. I'll let him whinge when he writes me a good part.
Okay.
Coming up, we reveal the
Okay, John Cleese. You know he don't take no prisoners, John Cleese.
Oh,
But
man.
I think nowadays, like in all sets, like you can't have that. It'll probably be CGI'd in.
There's so many different things that they did then that you can't do now. Like,
Right.
and not just writing, but like actual stunts and stuff. Like, you just can't get away with it now.
Right. And I'm pretty sure that we've progressed past that. Like right now, like at the time that's recording, the SAG-AFTRA strikes are finally done, and the big concern is AI. Like that was nowhere near that concern back in 1975.
No.
You had to worry about actual, physical harm.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure their set was like built with 100% asbestos. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because it's strong and it worked.
Right, exactly. Didn't.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Real-life inspiration for Basil Fawlty.
You want me to ring you at 7:15? You want breakfast as well? It was exactly that same reaction. I thought, this is really odd. He's running a hotel.
He was so gratuitously rude because, like all British hoteliers, he operated on the principle that I could run this hotel properly if it wasn't for the guests.
And hear firsthand the inside story of script writing within a marriage.
I think John and I wrote together better than we lived together.
So stay tuned for the grand reopening of Torquay's notorious hotel. "30 years on from its departure, Fawlty Towers still retains its ability to make the British public roar with laughter. Amongst its many claims to fame, it of course gave us one of the most iconic comedy characters ever created, the irrepressible Basil Fawlty.
He's so awful. He's so impossible. He's failing to achieve everything he wants. And although you disapprove of his goals, he's still failing. And he's such a sad character.
Success isn't funny. Failure's funny, and Basil just fails triumphantly every day at some point.
Oh, thank you, God! Thank you so bloody much!
I would describe him as a ludicrous figure who takes things to extremes. You know, whatever emotion he has, it's extreme.
Sybil! No, do you understand? I remember Sybil! There's a party! Everybody, people over!
Everything all right? Bit of a bump. Just smoothing it out.
He's intelligent, but emotionally he just doesn't function well because he's operating on a map of the world that just doesn't work. And he doesn't realize that being reasonably open and friendly to people would make him a lot happier.
Have you any idea of how much there is to do? Do you ever think of that? Of course not. You're too busy sticking your noses into every corner, poking about for things to complain about, aren't you? Well, let me tell you something. This is exactly how Nazi Germany started.
I think there's something about his height, plus his passion, you know, his desperation, his anger, and of course his fury. I mean, it's all there. I suppose I don't think anybody could do it except John.
Sorry.
He played these characters that were rather good at bullying people in a kind of authoritarian fashion, putting them down with one or two remarks, oh, shut up, or giving them a quick flick on the side of the head. This happened in Python, and that was, of course, the relationship he created with Manuel. And John could do that very, very well indeed.
The bottle.
Yes.
Where is it?
Okay.
Donde es...
Oh, I take it. I take it.
Come here. You're a waste of space.
Oh!
I could see elements of Basil Fawlty in characters that John played in Python. I could see the same kind of thought that went into that kind of physical comedy that made Silly Walk so successful went into Fawlty Towers.
I'll do the funny walk.
John played one or two characters in Python where sort of rising anger was sort of the joke.
Kick him in the teeth where it hurts! Kill! Kill! Kill!
We're just sitting at a table in the garden talking about reason, and suddenly getting completely berserk about sort of the world and banging the table. And John played this as only John could.
Cheese ready? Kind of.
I think the thing about
It makes me it makes me wish I watched more Monty Python, because I would have understood, John Cleese and all the other Python characters. I mean, particularly all the elements of Python characters in Basil Fawlty.
Yeah, I just remember my Python experience, right, is the Holy Grail one.
Yeah.
And Life of Brian.
Right. We've seen both of those. I've gotten the I've jailbreaked the Holy Grail one onto YouTube. I think Life of Brian is still in Patreon somewhere in the depths of there.
In the depths. Yes.
Yes.
But
yes.
so I mean, like you, I definitely would love to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah. The only Python we've done is the Spanish Inquisition. And I know there's a lot more there. So yeah.
Basil Fawlty is that there is a lot of John in it. It's John's suppressed anger. I mean, he spent 30 years going to a psychiatrist because of his anger. He had so much anger in him.
I have a feeling that situations could arise when I would almost go as berserk as Basil. Oh, really? Yeah, really. Yes, there's something manic somewhere in me. People talk to me at parties sometimes, and they really do talk at me. And I have fantasies about picking things up, cheese dips, But I've never had the courage to do it, you see. I can do it on stage. Basil Fawlty did it.
Why do they think that I have to be Basil Fawlty in order to write this? I mean, of course I have that in me, but I've got all the other characters that I play, You have to have all these emotions available to you, and then when you become, when you're asked to play a part, you suppress some of them and enlarge and play much more strongly some other emotions. But that's what you do. It's like having a palette. You choose this color, and this color, but not the others. You see what I mean? Then for a different character, you choose different colors.
I relate to that a lot. I never really thought about it that way, because the pastel of acting is emotion.
Mm-hmm.
Like you pick happiness or sadness or anger, and it's like writing music. Like there's certain happy chords, there's sad chords, there's things like that. So
yeah,
so that's I picked up. That really spoke to me.
It really broke it down, didn't it? It's like, smart. Right. Certain paintings that you're painting don't need all the paint.
Right. If it depends on what it is. Like some call for brighter colors, some call for more melancholy, more darker. So
I like you're right. I like the way you put that. That was very, very artistic. I like that.
Yeah. And as someone that is going to try and pursue, trying to find background work in Atlanta, that's very knowledgeable for me. I'm going to take that in.
Definitely.
Yeah.
John encountered the inspiration for his hardline hotelier when the Monty Python team checked into a Torquay hotel during filming in May 1971.
We were in Torquay because we were filming all the outdoor, all the exterior parts of Monty Python, and staying in this hotel. And the first evening, we decided we'd eat in.
We were all having dinner there. And the owner, Mr. Donald Sinclair, was wandering around, very grand, not doing anything to help, of course, but being very grand. And he walked past the Python table where we were all eating, and Terry Gilliam had done what the Americans do, which is to cut the meat like that, and then they put the knife down, transfer the fork to this hand, and spear the meat with the right hand. And he stopped, and I remember he just stared. And then he said to Gillian, we don't eat like that in this country. And we were pretty astounded because it was completely out of the blue.
We were filming the next day. And I said, can you give us a call? Can we have a call in the morning? And he looked a bit, yes. What time? And I said, well, about 7:15. 7:15? I mean, it's just like Basil. 7:15? You want me to ring you at 7:15? You want breakfast as well? It was exactly the same reaction. I thought, this is really odd. He's running a hotel.
I don't think he actually liked guests. I think he suffered them, and I don't think he liked working in the hotel either. I saw him close the bar at just after 9 o'clock one night. He said he was off to bed, and it was time everybody else went to bed too.
What? One day, Eric and I were waiting for the car to take us filming, and Eric left his briefcase by the door where he'd propped it up while we were just playing catch with a tennis ball. And when he got back, he went up to the desk and Sinclair saw him come here. Excuse me, what? What is it now? He said, I'd left my briefcase. He said, yes. He said, it's the other side of the wall. And he pointed out of the front door to a white wall, which was the far side of a swimming pool.
What?
And he said, it's behind the wall. He said, what? He said, what? He said, it was behind the wall. He said, yes, I'll put it behind the wall. Eric said, well, why did you put it, what? Why did you put it behind the wall? He said, we thought it might be a bomb. And a bomb? And Sinclair said, well, we've had a lot of staff problems recently. So he really thought somebody'd fired and come back and put a bomb in a briefcase.
I said to Mike, I thought, we can't stay here. I really can't stand it. I didn't see the comic possibilities that John had seen.
John had sort of worked out with Connie the logic of a Sinclair / Basil Fawlty position, which is basically that it is the people you're making your money from who are causing you trouble and problems. And if they weren't there, life would be much easier. There is a flaw there.
Now y'all understand our plight. If it just wasn't for everyone that's watching on YouTube and on Patreon, if it just wasn't for them, our lives would be a lot easier.
Oh man, you know what's crazy is that I've felt that way about 90% of my jobs. I'm like, God, the worst part of this job are the people.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing. And in fact, I remember in the initial reactions we did, I said that I empathize so much with it, having worked so many customer service jobs. And Basil Fawlty was basically saying everything I wanted to say to every rude guest or every cheesy guest.
Yep.
You know?
Dude, that's so funny. That's so funny.
Said, but now we know where he got the inspiration from. Is someone that was like that before it was cool to be like that.
Fucking legend, dude.
Yeah.
John capitalized on the indelible impression made by Mr. Sinclair while writing for the hugely successful ITV series Doctor at Large.
One of them was set in a hotel, and I remembered the original character, Donald Sinclair. Timothy Bateson did a terrific performance.
The prototype for Basil Fawlty was ready.
Yes?
Good evening. I believe you have a room.
At the end of it, Humphrey Barclay, bless him, said to me, you know, there's a series in that character. I thought, typical bloody television executives looking for series all the time. Thank you, Humphrey.
But Basil was to go on the back burner for another 3 years as John continued to conquer the known world as part of groundbreaking comedy collective Monty Python.
And now for something completely different.
Then, after 5 years of remarkable success, John suddenly walked out on the Pythons.
We were all very unhappy when John left the series, though it came as no surprise.
John was always planning to leave Python. I think after the first series he was planning to leave. He felt he'd had enough of us, I think.
None of the others understood, really. I think Eric understood a bit, but I don't think they understood why I wanted to leave Python. They thought he was great. And I was bored. We were repeating ourselves, and I thought I didn't want to do the third series.
Turning his back on subversive satire, Cleese joined forces with his 30-year-old wife, Connie Boo, the former New York waitress, to create something completely different, a conventional sitcom.
After I finished Monty Python, I'd always wanted to do something with Connie. And I was invited out by a lovely man called Jimmy Gilbert. He'd been made head of Light Entertainment. He said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "I'd like to do something with Connie." And he said, "All right, well, why don't you just go back home and talk to Connie? Give me a call and tell me what you'd like to do."
John wanted to do something based on Donald Sinclair. So he asked me if I wanted to have a go with him at writing a pilot. And we'd enjoyed the bit of writing that we'd done together. I think the fact that we were husband and wife, that, there aren't many places you can't go. And John really could make me laugh.
I think he'd always said that he would write with Connie at some point, and I think it was just a relief not to have to write with Graham, quite honestly.
Gray was very cross with me for leaving Monty Python, and I'm not quite sure why, but I think that he felt great security being in a group. Gray didn't function terribly well on his own. Maybe he felt that Connie had supplanted him as a writer.
I know that because John's told me that Connie was so important to the writing of those shows, and in fact, generally her contribution has been sort of rather neglected or downgraded, and John always said she was, very, very important in the way that the ideas were sort of put together. So John needed somebody else there, as I did with Terry Jones. You need someone to bounce the comedy off and to think about the ideas, and someone who can tell you, no, that doesn't work.
We created it together. I think that it was the plot work. But, John's facility with language is extraordinary, and it was just wonderful to be working with him.
Yeah, I mean, that's the natural progression of life, and just as a life of a creative in general.
Yep.
Long-time subscribers of this channel know that we've gone through many different changes.
Oh my God, yeah.
And it's not just tied to views. It's, sometimes we get bored of doing a certain thing.
Yeah.
Not saying what, like some of the things we used to do, they do pop up every now and again, but sometimes change is necessary.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, look at our little setup,
Yeah. Yeah,
it is. We changed.
Yeah, you look at what was in the beginning versus now; it is completely changed.
100%.
And so I empathize with John Cleese, wanting to do something different. If you feel like you're doing the same thing over and over again, you're not getting anything else out of it.
Yeah,
that's time to pack your shit and go do something new.
But that's so risky, right?
It is.
Riding with your wife, that must be not many can get through it, and maybe they didn't. Maybe Fawlty Towers was the reason, or maybe it wasn't the reason. Maybe they'll talk about it. But that's kind of on par. Oh, you're riding with your wife. Oh, you're acting with your wife. Oh, okay. Say goodbye to that.
Yeah, that's a big gamble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Production on the pilot began on the 23rd of January 1975, and the first person to commit himself to the new show was Cleese's former Python director.
When I first read the pilot script of Fawlty Towers, I was in fact banned from reading it in bed because I laughed so much. And even though we lived about half a mile from the nearest house, we were in great danger of embarrassing the neighbours. I think it was very exciting in the first series, because it was this little thing we were doing in a back room. I never thought it would get figures remotely near Python.
Still to come, we look at the method behind the madness.
The laugh was based on Connie's laugh, actually.
Oh, he's a swine to have told that. But it's true, I guess.
Now, Sybil, that's enough.
And reveal how one of Fawlty's most... The year is 1975. Harold Wilson is Prime Minister. Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier have a thriller in Manila, while Arthur Ashe becomes the first black tennis player to win Wimbledon. London is hit by snow in June, and Margaret Thatcher becomes the first female leader of a political party. But this isn't why 1975 is a landmark year. It's the year that Fawlty Towers makes its debut, September the 19th, to be exact.
September. And we put out the YouTube reactions in September.
Wow.
That's some dumb luck right there. No wonder they did so well.
Wow. That's awesome.
Oh,
damn.
Man. Sometimes we just fall into some dumb luck.
Yeah, we do. I mean, that's like the unspoken mantra of our channel.
Yeah, we are that mistake.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly why we wrote the Lord Melbury episode first. I don't think it was particularly to establish his snobbery, but then that was there, and it was kind of an obvious start.
Would you put both your names, please? Well, will you give me a date?
I only use one.
You don't have a first name.
No, I am Lord Melbury, so I simply sign Melbury.
Go away. I'm so sorry to captivate your lordship. I do apologize. Please do accept my forgiveness. Now, is there anything that I can do for you? Anything?
The apparent lord booking into Fawlty Towers was just classical. Basil suddenly cringing and obsequious. It was cartoony, but there was an awful reality about it as well.
So you're with a bath?
Oh, naturally. Naturellement.
The lower middle class stuff was a little bit of my dad in this, because he totally bought into the English class system. If I'd married a duke, he would have, duke's daughter, I'm sorry, or a duke, but a duke's daughter, he would have creamed his jeans, you know? He could have gone straight out and shot himself, died a happy man, you know?
I've never been in such a place in my life. You snobs! You stupid, stuck-up, toffee-nosed, half-witted, upper-class piles of...
In those days, if you were lower middle class, quite different from being middle class, he was lower middle class, aspirational. Millions of people were like that. Millions of people like that actually then, at the end of the decade, put Margaret Thatcher into power. So it had a great sort of force in terms of social history, what was going on then.
He wants to belong to a professional class, but he is a hotel owner. And one of the fascinating things is the way that Sybil keeps pulling him back to earth.
Cognac for you, Doctor. It's rather fascinating you're both being doctors. Port for you, Doctor. Because at one stage I was contemplating becoming a surgeon.
A tree surgeon.
Thank you, Sybil.
Keeping a tight rein on her stick insect of a husband is Sybil Fawlty.
What's going on?
Nothing, my dear, nothing at all.
Mrs. Fawlty.
Now, look.
Yes, Polly.
I don't know what she...
When we started to write Prue, we weren't sure how the character was going to be played. And at the first read-through, after the first day, we left rehearsal, and Connie and I said, well, what do you feel about Prue's performance? And we were both a bit worried, because it wasn't what we had in mind.
I thought Sybil was going to be really difficult to cast, and so we were extremely lucky to get Prue. Because she's complicated. She's bright, but she's daft. She's steely, but she's frivolous. She's decent and annihilating.
And by the second day, our worries completely disappeared, because we saw what she was doing, and we realized it was better than what we'd had in our minds. But the interesting thing is, And I'm not even sure that Prue knows this, and I hope she won't mind. I was not so familiar with her work in those days. Just before we got into writing it, we went to see a very funny woman called Bridget Turner. And Connie and I said we should offer this to Bridget, and we sent the script off. And Bridget wrote a very nice, or just sent a message back saying she didn't feel it was right for her. And so she passed on it. So we said to John Howard Davis, we don't know, who do you suggest? He said, well, I think you should use Prue Scales.
Hello, dear.
What you doing?
I'm kissing you, dear.
Well, don't.
At 43, Prunella Scales was already a veteran of the stage and screen. Sybil was to become her most infamous and celebrated creation.
Hello, dear. Just going to,
I was sent along to see John Cleese, was in bed with flu. And I was shown up to his room, and there he was in bed. And he said, what did you think of the script? And I said, I think they're absolutely brilliant. And he said, oh, good, good, good. Any questions? And I said, yes, why did they get married? And he said, oh, God, I was afraid you'd ask that.
I wish you'd help a bit. You're always refurbishing yourself.
What?
Oh, never mind, never mind.
Don't shout at me. I've had a difficult morning.
Oh, dear, what happened? Did you get entangled in the eiderdown again? Not enough. Or did you have to talk to all your friends for so long you didn't have time to perm your ears?
I think it was my idea that perhaps she wasn't as posh as he was. And what she fell for was his sort of upper-class manner and accent and everything.
All I said to her pretty early on was she's the sort of woman that could make love and paint her nails at the same time. And her class was self-evident. The shiny, tight skirts, the pretentious golf, the high heels, and the complete and utter control of her man.
Basil! Don't you dare give me any more of those pathetic lies!
The heels and the tight-fitting skirts, and that was based on somebody I'd known in the business as a child, you know, the sort of thing she wore.
Oh, Uncle Ted comes in with his crate of brown ale and...
The laugh was based on Connie's laugh, actually.
Oh, he's a swine to have told that. But it's true, I guess. I remember I had an acting teacher in New York who said, I really hate your laugh, Connie. Yeah, what can I say?
She would exhale and then draw her I hope she won't mind me saying, but she would laugh, because the great thing about Connie is when she laughs, she just busts a gut, you know, and she would do this. So we incorporated that, somebody machine gunning a seal, remember?
But as Fawlty Towers began to take
I'm just now noticing that.
Yeah, I love that description of that kind of laugh. So, machine gunning a seal. Oh.
Can you imagine?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. That is a completely accurate description of that. I love that, man. Oh God,
It's something you don't think about until it's said out loud.
And but you know what, Spence? That goes to show you how in depth they really were with their script. Like,
yeah, and
these characters weren't just haphazardly created. Like, they were thought all the way down to the laugh.
right.
Like-
I mean, it's not just the script. You know, it's the choice of the actors and everyone else. Like, you know, the script is just text on a paper.
Yeah.
It's not till an actress brings it to
Yeah.
life, and you know, Prunella did a great job with that, and that was
Yeah.
a great choice of for character is or
Yeah,
whatever it is. I can't
whatever
do it
she
myself.
does. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I barely can get down the myself.
That to me is the best laugh so far on this channel in
Yeah,
almost 3 years.
Yeah, what's it? Morgan.
Yeah,
From,
Morgan's
yeah,
laugh.
from Randy buys the bookshelf off
God,
Gumtree.
man. Oh my
Second,
God.
I just because it's been pointed out to me, I'll give it to Sybil Fawlty.
Yep.
Yeah.
Shape, not everyone thought the sitcom was such a great idea.
What?
With Python, I think we'd all been sort of aware that we were trying to raise the stakes and have animation as a link and integrate film much more and be much more experimental in the form of the way we put the programme together. And there's nothing experimental in Fawlty Towers. It seemed very, very traditional.
Do please excuse me one moment.
I don't remember my friends having any kind of negative reaction, except for a couple of the Pythons. I mean, Terry Jones, I remember he called me, I think, a traitor.
I was very surprised when John decided to do a straight sitcom. I mean, it isn't straight; it's funny. It's a wonderfully funny show. But I was surprised that he decided to go down the sitcom route. Really,
the funny thing was how everyone got everything wrong. I mean, even the guy who at that time was reading scripts for Light Entertainment, he said, "I'm afraid I thought this one as dire as its title."
What?
It's a kind of Prince of Denmark of the hotel world, a collection of cliches and stock characters, which I can't see being anything but a disaster.
What?
Shall I read the guy's name out? No.
Do it.
No, he'll be retired now. Let's let him off. But it just shows, you see, people have no idea what they're doing.
Exactly. People don't know what they want until you put it in front of them.
Yep.
That's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah, 100%.
Decca Records rejected the Beatles before Parlophone picked them up. And let's see, Oprah was rejected so many times. Give me an example.
Yeah,
Fawlty Towers, they thought it would be a flop.
Yeah, man, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, the first episode of Fawlty Towers was not an instant hit. In a time when Britain only had 3 TV channels, a disappointingly low 3.7% of the population tuned in.
First show was aired. Not very good initial reaction. I think the Mirror, the Sunday Mirror, said Long John short on jokes.
What the critics thought was totally irrelevant. And it didn't hurt our feelings.
I think that's what happens, you see. If you do something that is new, it seems to take longer, certainly did with Python, longer for people to get it. But when they do get it, they seem to get it more because it took a little time.
I was just finding my feet working with John, and I think my performance was quite stilted. But what John was able to help me with, I think, was coming forward and creating ideas.
Once we'd seen them do their performances, it helped Connie and me enormously to build. They'd started to put flesh on the bones.
One character that blossomed into the perfect sidekick for Basil was Polly, the low-paid chambermaid.
Connie was not just a very funny actress, she was a great dramatic actress, but at the same time she had no experience of working under the very demanding conditions of a sitcom where you have 5 days to rehearse something, which is not a lot. And then you have a 1 day in the studio and 2 hours in front of a studio audience, and that's very demanding.
Lamb?
Casserole.
Oh, sounds good. Does it come with a smile?
Comes with sprouts or carrots.
Oh, smile's extra, is it?
You'll get one if you eat up all your sprouts.
We deliberately did not give her a major part because I didn't want her to carry something that was going to be too difficult at the beginning. And if you look in the first show that she did, that she's holding her performance in a little bit, and then after that she flowers. I mean, she's wonderful. She's really wonderful.
Hello, Fawlty Towers.
Yeah, I mean, that's I never worked on a sitcom before, and I didn't know that like 5 days of rehearsal and 2 hours in the studio, like that's not a lot. I remember, there was a whole semester, or quarter of semester, school quarter to rehearse, the fall play, the spring musical in high school. And, that like every day after school, like you had multiple
one
weeks.
moment, leading up to one moment, right?
Yeah,
This
one
is
weekend.
This is like, it's like no time.
Yeah.
No time. That's crazy.
Then again, like, you're expected to be that they hired, professionals. They cast professionals for this. So
yeah,
hopefully, like, the 5 days is all you need. But for
Well-
someone that it's not worked in television before, like, that's not a lot.
That's huge. That's like a baptism of fire, dude.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Especially for a wife of a main character, because then you really have to protect both, right?
Yeah.
Because if one gets burnt out, guess what happens to the other one? Burnt out.
Mm-hmm.
Because he gets to hear how burnt out the other is,
Yeah.
and
yeah.
that burns he or she out much
Yeah.
quicker.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. They go home to this. Ugh.
Please put the bottle down.
What is it?
Kurt is drunk. Under the table.
I think she's the least defined of all the characters. She is a go-between between Sybil and Basil, a sort of, as if they're her surrogate parents, she's there to keep the peace.
Polly is really a sympathetic character because she is the voice of sanity, the still calm around which the madness happens. And yet she does try to get Basil out of holes. You feel that she's got a very good heart.
She has trouble with her arm. That's why she goes in the cupboard.
Exactly.
Are you feeling better? Her arm gets stuck there.
It's always happening to her.
He's dead.
This is her husband. She hasn't got over it. Died 30 years ago.
She doesn't mean any harm.
In the cupboard.
No more today. You've had enough. Oh my God, you've had enough. Look.
It wasn't in itself a terribly comic character, but it was. I mean, in a way, she was perhaps the sort of straight guy.
Oh, I see, Mr. Lehman.
Yes. We thought you said the linen.
Brilliant. Sorry. That's it.
He had some wonderful female characters, and all very well defined, and strong women.
Is the women saving the day time and again. I mean, it's Polly saving Basil from a predicament with Sybil, and Sybil saving Basil from his customers. It's a perfect dance. Basil is sexist, but Fawlty Towers is certainly not sexist.
Oh, just pull yourself together.
I love the scene where Polly slaps me in the face because I've totally lost it, of course, out of fear for Sybil. If you actually look at Basil's motivation, apart from the snobbery, what it's really all about is not letting Sybil get in a tantrum, because he just can't handle that. He's more frightened of that than anything else.
We all make mistakes, dear.
But in the second episode, not even Polly can protect Basil from the full force of Sybil's fury.
He's no bloody good.
Very to exaggerate. I mean, he's not brilliant.
Not brilliant, he belongs in a zoo.
In the Builders episode, where David Kelly gets beaten with the umbrella, we tried all sorts of things to try and pad the umbrella out.
And to be perfectly honest, Mrs. Fawlty, I like a woman with spirit.
Oh, do you? Is that what you like?
I do.
Oh, good.
Now, Sybil, that's enough.
Come on, then, give us a smile.
Somebody on the floor said, look, that umbrella's heavy, and the ribs in the umbrella may very well crack yours. So I have an idea.
I ended up with the lads on the floor rolling foam into it.
It made the umbrella twice the weight. And so when she clouted me and John, we really felt it, you know.
I've seen better organised creatures than you running round farmyards with their heads cut off. Now, collect your things and get out.
As he points out, he likes a woman with spirit, and by God, Sybil had spirit, you know.
Still to come, how the world's worst waiter...
Man, that's funny. Like, they tried to remedy the problem, but they made the problem worse.
Which is a Fawlty Towers all over. Like, you couldn't even make that up.
Right. That fits the show perfectly.
Oh, God.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking, like, they brought up a good point about Polly how she's like the glue that held everything together, the go-between of everyone. I would say in other shows we checked out, maybe that's, Father Jack in Father Ted. Maybe between that or maybe is it
Mrs. Doyle?
Mrs. Doyle. It's one of those two.
Yeah.
I would say it's more Mrs. Doyle is the glue, and I'd say like in betweeners, maybe that was Neil. It was Neil. It's like the glue, and then maybe IT Crowd. I don't know. I would say maybe Moss. Moss is probably the glue.
Moss would be the glue.
Definitely not Roy. Definitely not Jen. Definitely not Douglas.
Jen. Definitely not Douglas. Oh God, yeah, but no, Moss is definitely the glue. But I mean, I don't know, man, because now that he says it, it's so different. It's so different because when these guys are referencing their sitcom Fawlty Towers, I'm like, I can see that. Like, it's so interesting to get their perspective of what was happening and what they wanted to convey through their mouth, through their, this is what we were thinking. You're like, holy crap. Just like it adds a whole different layer. I feel like now when I binge this with Holly, it's going to be so much better.
Yeah.
It's going to be so much better.
Yeah.
Knowing this.
I even going through editing, pushing it through the YouTube filters. Like, there are things I picked up on that the second time around. It just made it even funnier.
Man.
Yeah.
Became a national treasure.
Yes, indeed, my dear friend.
And the cast recalled the intense rehearsal process required to bring this carefully crafted classic to our screens.
Mr. Richards is the gentleman. Oh.
Performing of the series was always difficult. We were under enormous pressure.
If you didn't really know it by Wednesday morning, that was trouble.
The first couple of episodes may have left critics cold, but by October 1975, Fawlty Towers was fast becoming compulsive viewing for comedy fans.
Manuel, let me explain.
And it was the bumbling, bewildered, but well-meaning Spaniard from Barcelona that stole the hearts of the nation, even if he did have a poor grasp of the language.
The great joy of the series to me, and maybe to everyone, is Manuel and Andrew Sachs.
Manuel is sensational. And Andrew played it so beautifully.
He's a wonderful character actor, but I think, I remember he had Manuel right from the beginning in rehearsals. I thought he was wonderful.
I mean, it's a wonderful, joyous creation. Everyone wants to hug Manuel and take him home and put him on the mantelpiece.
The man behind this lovable Spaniard was actually born in Berlin. 45-year-old character actor Andrew Sachs was starring in a successful West End show when he got the call that would change his life.
Manuel Towers, how are you? It's nice today.
The way I see Manuel, he's a very happy man. Even though he's being abused by everybody in the hotel, I think he's happy because I guess he comes from a big family, 10, 11 people maybe, his kids. And to be noticed there at all in Barcelona or wherever it was, you have to get the attention on you, do something naughty, get hit.
Get a clean one. He's clean now.
The British family he was adopted into, that is the Fawltys, represented his father and mother in a way, and he knew he was being appreciated because they hit him a lot.
The relationship between Basil and Manuel could have been, again, very just cruel and unpleasant and heavy.
I don't want to work here anymore. Open the basket now! Open the basket! Now, inside! Not you! I quit! Get out! I on strike! I'm warning you! I stay here is nice! You see this? You're next!
Manuel was based simply on one idea, which was that in London in the 70s, if you went to a restaurant, you were very, very lucky indeed to get what you ordered. And the reason was that the people who owned restaurants had discovered that by employing people who spoke no known language, they could save a lot of money.
The wine list, see? Vino. Sail. No. The list. There, the list. The list there. The red bus. Look there. There.
He and John.
Yeah, I mean, he spoke the quiet part out loud, and it pretty much hasn't changed on either side of the pond, I guess.
Hasn't changed. That's just the way things are just done.
Yeah, but not like the front wait staff, like in the back.
Oh yeah, the back.
The cooks
Yeah.
back there, and even in fast food chains when
I just have
Americans
no
don't wanna work
I just have no bar anymore. You know what I mean? Like I'll order what I might want to order. You give me what I deserve. Like, I'll put in a request. It's just loose. I don't need to get it. It's not the end of the world if I don't get it. My standard for food now is so low. And
right.
It's just like, okay, I'm not going to go to war over a cheeseburger instead of a chicken sandwich. I'm just like,
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Right. Yeah. And my viewpoint about it is it's similar to yours in a way, but just coming from a different space. It's just knowing the history of restaurants in general. It's, I think it has something to do with the French Revolution. A lot of the cooks were striking against the royals and just opening up their own public spaces to serve what they were serving the aristocrats of the time. So the concept of restaurants has always been a upper class thing.
Yep.
The common everyday folks meant to stay home and cook their own food.
Yep.
Because they can't afford chefs, things like that. So that's why I don't get mad anymore when it comes to if someone gets my order wrong. I'm not gonna be a Karen.
Yep.
It's not worth it.
It's not worth it. Not worth it. There's other things to go to war about.
Exactly.
John played the physical comedy very well. I mean, John used to whack him over the head or sort of push him through the doors.
I love the violence on Manuel. I invented quite a lot of it. I invented the spoon thing when he hit. I invented quite a lot of the violence. I like violence in comedy. I think it's very good. It makes you laugh. When in doubt, hit somebody.
He must have gone home battered and bruised on so many occasions, and his wife must have said, "What did he do to you tonight?" And he said, "Well, he hit me with a spoon."
I grew up loving knockabout comedy, and my attitude to that was, if you do that kind of comedy, which makes me laugh because it's one of the elements of farce, you're going to get knocked down.
Get on with your meals.
Andrew bore the brunt of it, and there were times, certainly I was trying to hit him with a saucepan once with a glancing blow.
I'm creeping in, he comes up behind me, gets the pan, and he goes like that. But instead of stopping with this critical eighth of an inch, he didn't. He just went, "Vroom." I went down, and I could hear the angels singing. I thought, thank heavens it's the last shot of the show, because I can't get up.
I claim, of course he denies it, that he straightened up as I was, so I really caught him and he had a headache for 2 days. And thank God it was about the last shot in the show, so he was able to go on.
Manuel became dreadfully famous all over the world. And it was very pleasant, really, that it was so separate from me that I was extremely flattered that so much interest should come to it. And I was very happy doing it, putting on the uniform, putting on the accent for Jim Will Fix It or something.
I think that you should give him a Jim Will Fix It badge because he learns English so well. Would you like to put that round his neck? How about that? Yes, indeed, my dear friend. Yes,
Clean the windows.
Unfortunately, Basil's pent-up frustration doesn't end with his staff.
Is there anything else?
Where he was attacking me at the table, actors always come up a bit more when the audience is in there. You rehearse it and you're under control, sort of, and then you get a slight bit of red mist on the night. You know, it happens, and we all accept that it happens. So I think I was sort of slightly squashed at one point, you know, like that.
Don't worry, a bit of cheese went the wrong way. Never mind, he's fainted.
But Basil's mistreatment of guests also stretched to the long-term residents, the senile bumbling Major and the batty old spinsters Miss Gatsby and Miss Tits.
Oh, Mr. Fawlty.
Ah, good morning, ladies.
Ursula and I think you're a very naughty boy, don't you, Ursula?
Oh, God. Oh, really?
Basil isn't as horrible to them as he is to the guests. They're kind of part of his routine, and they're part of the home. So he can control them, in a way. And they want to look after him, but he won't allow them. But he's never really cruel to them or the Major.
Nearly 6 o'clock, Fawlty.
Is it?
Yes, well, when you're ready, might have a fruit juice or
Yes,
something.
well, I'll open up the moment I've done this, Major, yes?
No immediate hurry.
Drunken old sod.
When Connie and I wrote the Major in the first episode, I don't think we had any thought of repeating the character. But when you see something and you think, oh, that's good, and we think, well, he'll be a regular.
How are you, sir? I can speak English.
He really grew on us, and I love the scene with the moose's head.
Ah, hello, Major. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you.
You also got a different quality from John, I think, with the Major, because you felt he liked the Major.
I rather fell in love with Ballard Berkeley. I just thought he was the finest kind of English gentleman of a slightly bygone era. There was a sweetness to him and a kindness that was very, very touching.
As a former matinee idol and much-loved television actor, Ballard Berkeley brought over 40 years' experience to the part.
Oh, wow.
Well, look, I mean, what a lot of people don't realise is how old Dad was when he started doing Fawlty Towers. I mean, he was nearly, late 70s, I suppose, when he finished it. And people forget, that he, had a career of sort of 60 years before that.
We were never nervous about Dad being the Major because it was so much him, a great character for him to play, because it was so like him, except he wasn't dippy like that. No,
he
he was just affable and charming and got away with lots of stuff.
Dad's always thought of as a sort of military man, so when it comes to his war service, I think most people really sort of think he must have been, in the army. But of course, as we know, he was in the police, and he got a beat in just off Piccadilly in Vine Street,
Central, wasn't it?
which was ideal for him because he loved the West End. The theatre was there, all his friends were there.
I must have been keen on her because I took her to see India.
India?
At the Oval.
He was a mad cricket fan. And I remember once I was rehearsing a scene with Sybil, and we were doing the dialogue, and I glanced over, and there was Ballard, meaning the third Australian wicket was down. Couldn't even wait till the end of the scene.
My daughter still almost inevitably will introduce herself and say, my grandfather, because she loves talking about him, and it's because she gets such a good reaction as well.
As well as stars of the silver screen, the hotel environment also offered the perfect setting for some of Britain's best-loved actors to check in as guest stars.
You knew that you were being invited to be on something very special, and so it was a great privilege, and one felt blooming lucky.
John and Connie wrote a script that is unbelievably fine. They're gifted, truly gifted writers.
Now look, it's finished. Give those to me. Come on.
I think what John and Connie wrote was very tight and very complete, far more than most shows. There wasn't a lot of room for improvement.
These sitcom veterans were enticed onto the show by the gag-packed scripts that are now regarded as a masterclass in sitcom writing.
Connie and I used to spend 6 weeks figuring out each script, and something like 2.5 weeks before we wrote a line of dialogue.
John had a small study and a very big desk. The desk faced the wall. We just started to play.
I used to type onto an old-fashioned typewriter, but we just sat there and talked to each other, and might write a word down or say, what was that thing that happened? You remember the scene where the lovely Australian girl has got the tarry handprint on her boob? Well, we'd had that idea, and we were writing weeks later. Connie said, what was that idea we had about that would work here? And I said, he thought, yes.
What's that in your hand, Basil?
Oh, that's some stuff in the cupboard, dear. Something I knocked over.
John is highly instinctive, and I think he knew that he wanted to be monitored in some way, and that's why he wanted me on board.
Basil?
Hi, dear. Just checking the doors.
I think that the women were very, very well written in Fawlty Towers, and that was basically Connie, because I remember suggesting a line early on, and Connie saying a woman would never say that. And I was saying, what, really? Wouldn't you? Why? So it was a tremendous learning process, and although at the beginning I was writing most of Basil and Manuel, and she was writing Sybil and Polly, towards the end we were much more crossing over, and she was writing much more of Basil.
Come on, give it to me.
But this fast-paced farce presented huge problems when it came to production.
Fawlty Towers differed from a lot of the sitcoms that were current at that time, but by virtue of the volume of the script. The average sitcom script was somewhere between 60 and 70 pages. These scripts ran 120, 130 pages.
Most of the episodes were too long, so Connie and John had to go off and rewrite them. And they were, in fact, I think they're still too longer than the normal. I mean, it's not 29 minutes, 30 seconds, it's 35 minutes, all that sort of thing.
Man, that's right.
Wow.
Like that they're a lot longer than the average sitcom. But then were they 30 minutes or like I gotta look this up now because I'm just curious of how long the episodes were. Well,
That's crazy. They came with a book, bro.
yeah, 120 pages. That's a book right there.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, holy crap. I'm just gonna look and runtime. I don't know. I don't know what to say.
Just
Fawlty
Fawlty Towers average runtime.
running time 30 to 35 minutes. So sometimes it would go over the half-hour mark. So that would make sense. Yeah.
Which would cause massive issues for syndication because they need copy and paste shit.
Right. They need stuff to, put places to cut stuff out and put ads in there.
Yeah.
That's why, like Seinfeld, like there's so many things cut out of these episodes when you see them in syndication, like versus when they were originally aired and versus the versions on Netflix now.
Yeah.
Their Netflix they're full. So
wow.
That's something I didn't even think about.
Because it's not even about Fawlty Towers. It's what do you put before? What do you put after? And then that dictates the scheduling for almost the next day.
Yeah.
Because whatever you have on late night is going to be cut short to make room for Fawlty Towers.
Yeah, and for what I've learned when it comes to advertisements on like BBC or something like that, is that the show runs in its completion and then the advertisement comes between episodes, not during the broadcast of the episode. So
wait, what?
Yeah.
So like you'll see a full episode without ads, and then in the middle, but before the next thing comes on, that's when you get bombarded.
Yeah.
Holy crap, dude. That's why everyone's so annoyed with ads. Like for me, growing up, ads was just a thing. I can sit through an ad and I'm like, it's called a commercial. Like, I'll sit through 10 minutes of those, unfortunately.
Right. That's just normal to us growing up as American boys. and you know, in if it goes to like sports,
Oh, yes.
stateside, both
Fucking
NFL and
sports.
NASCAR like have all these breaks in the middle of it, whereas you know, soccer and F1 don't.
Yep.
And
Wow. Okay. That's interesting. That's very interesting. That's a big piece of the puzzle that I didn't know I needed.
yeah,
So
now we
okay.
have it.
Now we
Yeah.
have that. All right.
I want to touch on also like their writing style, like that's to go spending 6 weeks on a script. I mean, they were very full scripts, so that's but John Cleese just writing it out on a typewriter. Like, imagine if what they would think about ChatGPT, like writing out a script. Like, I mean, I'm sure he knows about it. And I'm sure in the rebooted Fawlty Towers, if it comes to fruition, that might be a subject matter.
Yeah. But my dad knows about ChatGPT.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean he knows what it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, he knows about it. Doesn't know what the hell it does.
Yeah, exactly. But ChatGPT cannot write a Fawlty Towers.
No.
That's just not possible.
And I love that she started writing, Connie Booth started writing for the women. That's why the women in Fawlty Towers are like these empowered women.
Yeah.
Like, even though they're not like I would say they're one of the main characters. There is no main.
Right.
They all share the light at the same time.
Yeah.
So if anything, this was putting women in a power setting.
Yeah.
To me, at least, watching this back. And I'm like, you know, that was a strong female role.
Yeah. Yeah.
For
very
both.
well done.
Very, very well done. And that's probably because Connie had such a huge role in making them who they were before he started writing bits and pieces for them.
Yeah. Where they kind of knew each other's language, they knew what to expect, and they could write for the other characters.
Yep.
Yeah.
In fact, none of the 12 Fawlty Towers episodes ran to their allotted 30-minute time slot.
Oh.
Wow.
A feat unheard of in modern sitcom making.
I always believe that you cannot do comedy fast enough, and I always optimistically hoped that it would run to time. It never did, of course.
Performing of the series was always difficult. We were under enormous pressure with the rehearsal, and because it was a farce and the timing was so important, and it was physically a very demanding show. I think it was tough on everybody.
Mr. Thurston is the gentleman I'm dealing with at the moment.
What?
Mr. Richards is the gentleman... Oh...
It was the first sitcom I ever did, where you rehearsed all day and you got the thing right. John's huge involvement and desire for perfection and get it absolutely right. And it's there in the end product.
We got Monday off. On Tuesday morning we met and read and blocked it. If you didn't really know it by Wednesday morning, that was trouble.
Yes, it was discipline. It had to be. We had to get through a lot of script. Not in my case, because actually, if you analyse my part, it's not big.
That's a rat. No, it's hamster. It's a rat, of course it's a rat. You have rats in Spain, don't you? Or did Franco have them all shot? It's pigeon. It's a rat. It's not a pigeon, it's a hamster.
It was a feat of learning. And I used to go back and lie down. I had a little library, and I used to lie on the floor. I would record all the other lines onto a tape recorder, and I'd lie flat on the floor, and I would have it by my ear, and I would be doing my lines in the lines that I'd recorded. It was the only way to get it done. I couldn't do it now. I could do one show, but I couldn't be there at 10 o'clock in the morning just starting the second one, because the pressure was relentless. And people said to me, "Did you enjoy it?" And I used to say to them, I didn't have time.
Although most of the filming was confined to the BBC studios, the team did venture out on the odd occasion, with one of the show's most memorable scenes shot on location in a sleepy suburban street in Harrow.
You vicious bastard! Come on! Oh my God! I'm warning you, if you don't start!
When we were working on the gourmet night and the car breaks down, and John was improvising because we hadn't got into the dialogue, he started losing it with the car and swearing at it.
That's it! You've tried it on just once too often!
I said, now he's got to hit the car. He's got to attack it.
I'm gonna give you a damn good thrashing!
Everyone says that beating the car is so funny. But when we were out filming, we had the car, but I had to find the branch.
Part of my duties was ordering up props. I'd asked for a selection of branches. And before we turned over, before we rehearsed anything really, John had a trial period with branches.
The first branch that I tried to hit it with was too rigid. It was just like a rod, and it just wasn't funny. It wasn't remotely funny. It wasn't just less funny, it wasn't funny. Then I went and got a sort of wispy, willowy bit and started to swat the car with it, and that wasn't funny. And it was only when I got the third piece and felt that and went back, and then it was funny. But I didn't know until I had physically done it, which and then I thought, that feels right.
Coming up, Basil.
Man, when we jailbroke that episode for YouTube, I remember getting so much hate when the AI cut out that part.
Yeah.
Like, people were pissed.
Yeah.
That's why you go to Patreon to see that stuff. And look, just a little behind the scene part, the editing stuff I use now, I take the meat and potatoes, the part where the episode is, there's an AI tool to remove, ums and dead air and all that. I just hit that, let it do its thing, and don't even look at it again. And I guess the AI just took that part out.
Well, AI hasn't seen Fawlty Towers.
Right. If AI had seen Fawlty Towers, it would have known to leave that in.
There you go. There you go.
Patreon link in the description, people.
100% use it. Oh my God, use it. So worth it.
Yep.
Improves foreign relations?
It's a kind of Tourette thing. Whatever you shouldn't say comes out.
I'll just get your hors d'oeuvres. Hors d'oeuvres, which must be obeyed at all times without question.
And the writer's relationship breaks down.
There was a huge gap between the two series because Connie and I, as far as I remember, got divorced.
Brilliant! Oh, brilliant! Right.
Despite impeccable storylines that would become etched into the nation's consciousness, Fawlty Towers was more of a slow burner than an instant hit.
Wow.
But by the end of its first series, the sitcom had almost doubled its viewing figures, with nearly 3.5 million viewers tuning in to watch the final episode, entitled simply The Germans.
The veal chop is done with rosemary. It's funny, thought you'd gone to Canada. And it's delicious and nutritious. In fact, it's really good. Really good.
The whole German episode is quite brilliant. It's a kind of Tourette thing. Whatever you shouldn't say comes out. But that is also helped by the size of Fawlty.
All in the market together. Old differences forgotten, and no need at all to mention the war. Sorry.
He can't help it. He is a fairly prejudiced English snob. And no matter how he tries to cover it up, as he must try to do in administering this place, he can't.
I'll just get your hors d'oeuvres. Hors d'oeuvres, which must be obeyed at all times without question.
Basil is vile to the Germans, who emerge as extremely courteous. They're not portrayed as humorless and aggressive or anything. That was a very interesting episode, because it was just deliberately writing Basil as being, utterly vile to these nice people.
Will you stop talking about the war?
Me? You started it?
We did not start it.
Yes, you did. You invaded Poland.
When this huge, tall man starts...
It's a line that just will be etched in my mind forever. You started it. No, we didn't. Yes, you did. You invaded Poland.
I love that, dude. That was one of my favorite episodes of cinema out there.
Of cinema?
Sorry, of the silver screen?
Of sitcoms.
Sitcoms.
It's okay.
Whatever. It's one movie anyway. It's one long ass movie to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it might as well be a movie because it ran over time.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
To goose step and then puts his finger up like that. You know, I mean, there's no half ways about it. This is very heavy, very, very heavy rudeness. When he said, "I'll do the walk," swung his leg out and goose stepped out, people were screaming. It was just an incredible moment.
Yeah, watch. Who's this then? Stuff you, but I'll do the funny walk.
I've always had a mixed personal reaction to the Germans episode because people go on about it so much. And I sometimes wonder a little bit like Alf Garnett and the problem that Johnny Spate used to have, whether people are laughing out of animosity towards the Germans when the whole point of that from the very, very beginning was to make fun of people still hanging on to those antediluvian attitudes. And it bothers me. And what I notice about the Germans is how they love it.
I'm trying to cheer her up, you stupid crowd!
The Germans episode obviously upset us very much. Otherwise, it would be only half as much fun, wouldn't it? No, but to be serious, it was taken very well by the broad majority of the German audiences.
One of the best moments of my life was standing in the Atlantic Hotel in Hamburg. And suddenly, as I was chatting to the concierge, a big, jolly German businessman sort of, "Hey, John!" and shouted across the lobby. And I turned round and he said, "No mentions of war, huh?" And the entire lobby roars with laughter. It was a wonderful moment. I thought, that's great. Now we can get on with it.
You have absolutely no sense of humour, do you? This is not funny! Who won the bloody war anyway?
Fawlty Towers is very much a period piece in terms.
Yeah, like it's supposed to be funny. It was meant to poke fun at people. It's from the horse's mouth himself, Mr. John Cleese.
Yeah, like
or
but
Sir
even
John Cleese. I don't know. Whatever.
I think it's Sir. I think he's knighted. I think he is.
But yeah,
it even happened then. People take things out of context.
It's sad, really, but it was funny. It's funny as hell.
Oh
And
hell yeah!
Funny is funny.
Yeah, funny is funny, man. I'm sorry. Yep.
He's not. What? He's not knighted?
How?
How is he not knighted?
I
He
thought
needs
the
to be.
whole Monty Python crew was.
Is the whole Monty Python crew?
I thought someone was knighted in the Monty Python crew.
Python knighted. Michael Palin is the only member of Monty Python to receive a knighthood. Sir Michael Palin.
Huh.
Go
John
figure.
Cleese? Really?
He deserves it to be knighted.
Jesus, come on.
Contributions to British culture, arts, and stuff.
Yeah. Jesus. All right, cool.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
In terms of relations with Irish people, foreigners of any kind.
There's plenty, absolutely plenty of xenophobia and racism in Fawlty Towers, but because it's a character thing. It's who Basil Fawlty is. We're laughing more at his prejudice than we are at anything else.
Oh, Mr. Fawlty, you're so charming.
Well, one does one's best.
Written more than 30 years ago, it's easy to spot more than a spattering of racial stereotyping, but one scene in particular has grown more shocking with age.
And the strange thing was that throughout the morning she kept referring to the Indians as niggers. No, I said. Niggers are the West Indians. These people are wogs. No, she said. All cricketers are niggers.
I don't think you would be able to get away with that scene now. You couldn't, because you couldn't justify it.
I can't remember if I watched it when it kind of first went out or if I saw a repeat of it, but I do remember thinking, not being offended by it, because he was talking in a language that generation talked about.
I don't care much for Germans.
Well, I know what you mean, but...
Bunch of cuts, that's what they are. All of them. Bad eggs.
Well, yes, forgive and forget, Major. I mean, God knows how the bastard still...
The Major is is epitomizing, a time where Fawlty would have felt more comfortable. And so he kind of has to use that language. And yes, it's shocking, even now, probably more so now, because those things have been eradicated.
Nobody could take the Major as anything other than a lovable old idiot. So you see, there's two ways of criticizing an opinion. One is to criticize it direct, and the other is to voice the opinion in a character who is ridiculous.
It was showing, in a way, what is totally unacceptable, but what still resides in the sort of behavior of some people.
Despite doing little to improve foreign relations, Fawlty became a hit around the world.
It's always been a mystery to me why certain shows work abroad. My only answer is, I think it may apply to Python too, is that I think we may have hit what they call archetypes. That there were certain types of people represented by the characters that people from different cultures could recognize.
Todo a su entera satisfacción. Sí, gracias.
Shown in more than 60 countries, it is one of Britain's most successful TV exports, even turning up in the most unlikely of places.
Pues se lo voy a decir. Llevo aquí sentada casi una hora.
Servicio rápido.
At one point, a German company wanted to do a version of where they dub it into German. This German company understood that I come from Germany, it's my first language. Would I come over and play Manuel in German with a Spanish accent?
Mrs. Fawlty, Mr. Fawlty.
Was ist?
Stürzen, fallen, Klatsch von Leiter.
Von der Leiter?
I would have a line like, I love you, Mr. Fawlty. I love you, Mr. Fawlty. But the German version would be, oh, Herr Fawlty, ich liebe dich, ich liebe dich.
Attempts have also been made to remake this bastion of British comedy.
God, ये तो ड्रॉप सीन की तरफ जा रहे हैं। अब इंस्पेक्टर ख्वाजा साहब आ जाएंगे। हमारा मिशन तो अधूरा रह गया यार। अब बस है, तनख्वाह काटता हूँ तो रोते हो।
When people have tried to remake it, it's never worked, considerably to my disappointment. I mean, when the Germans redid it, they did it superbly.
Chef? Kann ich jetzt endlich einen Gin Tonic und einen Whisky Sauer bekommen? Sauer.
The network just thought it was too expensive, I think.
There is only this unique character of Basil Fawlty and the one and only John Cleese. And maybe one came to the conclusion that it wouldn't work as well with another personality, another hotel, in another setting.
I mean, it was extraordinary when the Americans tried to remake Fawlty Towers.
Yeah.
It surprised me that they never asked me for any advice or help or comments. And it wasn't any good.
Whispering Pines presents to you Pacific Ocean Duck.
Is this some kind of joke?
Yes.
The really bizarre one was when I met someone at a weekend house party, and they said, "Oh, we have the rights for Fawlty Towers, and we're going to remake it." I was delighted. I said, "Great! Well, I hope we can make it work this time." And we said we got. I said, but there's one or two problems. Like, are Americans familiar with these little family hotels? They said, oh, yeah, it's not a problem. I said, were you going to make any changes? And they said, well, we're just making one change, really. We're going to write Basil out. And I remember thinking, you say that? And B. Arthur did it. It was called Amanda. And they took the funny lines and gave them all to B. Arthur when all the motivation for the funny lines no longer existed.
As proved, there can only be one Basil Fawlty. The first series...
What? Oh, man. I had no idea that there was an American attempt at Fawlty Towers.
There's always an American attempt. Like,
yeah.
And the fact that we haven't heard about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was one. Yeah, I'm never going to watch that. Not even by accident.
Yeah. It's not possible. Any show from that side of the pond, from that area, and because I'm including Father Ted in this because it's an Irish show, there's no way Americans could ever reboot it. Like,
no.
That's why Father Ted was never rebooted. That's why the American In-Betweeners on MTV just fell on its face. I'm not sure if I think there was a version of IT Crowd that that they tried to make on NBC or something.
Really, I feel like with enough help from the actual writers of IT Crowd, we could do something, but never call it IT Crowd.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
I mean, the only show that to my knowledge that's ever worked from that side of the pond is The Office.
Yep.
But yeah, and I'll say that for another time. Anyway, yeah.
Series ended in spectacular style in the autumn of 1975.
However did they win?
By bagging 2 awards for Best Sitcom and Best Comedy Performance by Cleese.
But of all the people who've helped me this year, I should, most of all, like to thank me, without whom, quite honestly, I could never have hoped to win this fairly great honor. So thank you, me. Thank you very much indeed. And now, although I can't be with you, I have arranged for the award to be collected. So if we could close the door now, it's getting a little cold. Thank you so much.
A second series was swiftly commissioned, but the writing went on hold as John rejoined his Python pals for a sellout tour and to shoot their latest film, Life of Brian.
Wow.
It would take a staggering 4 years for Fawlty to return.
4 years.
There was a huge gap between the 2 series, and also Connie and I, as far as I remember, got divorced.
The work went on in spite of us and in spite of what was going on. It didn't save our marriage, but I think Fawlty Towers became a kind of refuge for our demons and angels, and that maybe was why we were able to go on to write the second series.
We had been having doubts about the marriage in 74. And we finally split up in 76, and it was one of those relationships where there was an enormous amount of love and affection, and still is. But we first found it difficult to live together, so I moved out, moved back in, moved out, moved back in. And having finally moved out in the middle of 76, I think we started writing the next series about a year later, because there was no ill will.
For us, it was a release, because somehow I think, too, in the relationship of Sybil and Basil, we were able to get out a lot of our frustrations with each other through those characters. It was quite civil, and we got down to the work. I remember we'd get stuck, we'd take walks sometimes and not talk. And there were other times when John would take off like a racehorse in the work. He would just go, he was on his own track.
Oh, here, use this one.
Oh, thank you. John and Connie had split, and we had no idea. John would arrive, and then Connie would arrive later. You just thought, well, she's come in a different cab or something. We had no idea. They kept it so, not particularly secret, but we just carried on as we carried on.
I certainly don't remember it being a problem of any kind. They worked together beautifully, and it was a happy unit.
Manager!
Yes? Testing.
I've never met such insolence in my life. I come down here to get some laboratory paper, and she starts asking me the most insulting, personal things I've ever heard in my life.
I thought she wanted writing paper.
I'm talking to you, what?
What?
Connie and I didn't enjoy the second series as much as the first, because we felt this pressure to be as good.
I did feel, yes, under pressure, but not to the degree on the second series I think that John did with his history. He had more at stake, and I could trust him to do the worrying, which I did. But it took off in a way that I don't think either of us had ever expected it would.
It wasn't like the first series when you're sort of playing and discovering and having fun. It was kind of delivering the goods, and that wasn't as much fun.
Coming up, problems.
Wow, that blows my mind.
Yeah.
They split, yet they wrote the second series.
It's called being adults.
Yeah,
being fucking adults.
I mean, glad they recognized that they just can't live together. I mean, John did say that there was still love and affection there, so maybe they're just better off not as spouses.
Yeah.
So
works for Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn.
I guess
married, but they've been together for 20-something years.
Right.
So
it just blows my mind that
crazy, man.
I mean, as someone at time of this recording, my divorce was finalized yesterday. I cannot imagine doing any type of creative or business venture with the person I split with. So more power to John Cleese for
That's
that.
crazy, dude. No one even knew. What?
I guess they just didn't talk about it.
Yeah. Maybe not. Maybe no one was so connected. They were just busy doing work.
Yeah, they were showing up and they were doing their thing.
Yep.
So good on them.
Man.
Good on them.
Mount on the second series as a punch-up in BBC corridors puts production under threat.
He said, well, what's happening? And they said, well, we can't record tomorrow, we're on strike.
And we reveal how those infamous Fawlty signposts were created.
Possibly the most shocking thing was actually the anagrams at the beginning. Was it not Flowery Twats one?
This is Fawlty Towers, the hotel that guests hate to stay at, but viewers can't stay away from.
When I pay for a view, I expect something more interesting than that.
But that is Torquay, madam.
But it's not good enough.
Well, may I ask what you were expecting to see out of a Torquay hotel bedroom window? Sydney Opera House, perhaps? The Hanging Gardens of Babylon?
The dreadful Torquay Hotel is instantly recognisable by its infamous black and white exterior. Although fans may be surprised to learn that this legendary landmark was actually based in leafy Buckinghamshire.
This is the actual hotel, exactly halfway between my house and the BBC. I went to see it quite by chance. It was a country club, but it was absolutely perfect because it's up the steep slope. I was worried about its whiteness. It didn't look quite like Torquay, but yet it had a kind of seaside feel about it.
Woburn Grange Country Club is, alas, no more, burning to the ground in 1991.
Oh, no.
Possibly the most shocking thing was actually the anagrams at the beginning. Was it not Flowery Twats one?
The motivation for that was the newspaper boy who was always being smacked by Basil. And when he left the hotel, he always rearranged the lettering. In fact, it was Ian MacLean, the assistant floor manager of the series, who was the only person who could do it.
We were on location at the hotel and having lunch, and John said, you do crosswords, work out some anagrams of Fawlty Towers. So I set to work, and I found only one that is a true anagram. There may be others, I haven't gone back to it, which was Flowery Twats. And I said, but you can't use it because it's a little vulgar. And John Howard Davis and John Cleese said, I think we'll fit that in somewhere.
Despite its smutty signposts, Fawlty was now regarded as the jewel in the BBC's comedy crown.
I have to say before it gets to that, when we jailbroke Fawlty Towers for YouTube, and I put the text on the screen for copyright purposes, and you remember I would occasionally change one of the words or like the spelling of it, and there are too many people who did not get it at all.
Oh man,
I'm like, do you remember what show you're watching right now? And do you not get the joke? Woo! Over the head.
Over the heads.
And y'all accuse us from a lot of things going over our heads.
Yeah.
A little bit of calling the kettle black.
Yeah. I was like, wait, why? Why are they not like, this is their thing?
Yeah.
You took a page right out of their book.
Yes. Finally. And nobody appreciated it. I mean, some people did appreciate it, but most people are like, what? Who's this? Like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was funny. We tried something and it just fell on its face.
Yeah.
And on the 19th of February 1979, 4 years after the first series ended, Basil was back with a record-breaking audience of almost 13 million viewers.
Hello, Fawlty Towers.
I was worried about the second series because by that time I'd gone on to an administrative job.
Boy, Mrs. Fawlty.
Goodbye, Mr. Firkin.
Satisfied customer. We should have him stuffed.
I asked Bob Spears to do the second series, and I think it worked quite well. I don't think you could see the joins. It was in some ways more polished, but I'm only saying this because I directed the first series, that I thought the first series by and large was funnier. John will probably disagree.
Now, the second series was quite different because we knew that the first series was very good and people remembered it, as they often do, as being better than it was. So even if it was there, people remembered it as being there. So we realized that the new shows have got to be there. And by and large, I think the second series, the programs are better than the first.
With this new series came a new face, a cheerful Cockney chef called Terry, played by Brian Hall.
Fawlty, take it easy. Now look, we'll get one thing clear, all right? You don't tell me to take it easy, all right? I don't pay you to tell me to take it easy. I pay you to take it easy. No, I pay you to tell you to take it easy, so take it easy, all right?
I think that Connie and I felt that after 6 episodes, somehow we needed a new element on the staff.
Mr. Lehman, Dad! Well, that would explain a lot.
No, Mr. Fawlty. Really? Cole just said so.
What are you on about? I just took him his kippers. Oh, my God.
He was cocky and sturdier than Manuel, wasn't he? And a little bit slippery.
Brian was an absolute sweetie. He said, you gave me the key to this character. And I said, did I? And he said, don't you remember? I came up and I asked you at the very beginning of the first episode, what's the key to Terry? And he said, he's a police after him. And once he had that, he knew how to play it. And he just fitted in so beautifully.
So our new chef just left, just popped out for a quick prayer, I expect.
As well as fresh faces, the second series gave a greater insight into its characters.
Excuse me, I do apologise, but I'm afraid I shall have to ask you to...
Especially Basil and his very stuffed shirt approach to sex.
Very nice.
Oh, thank you.
Your thing. I mean, your charm, in the middle.
Yes, I know.
Basil has a tremendous problem with sex because he's not getting it. You see, I don't think Basil and Sybil have actually had it for quite a considerable time. And the dead giveaway, to me, is that they are in twin beds.
I suppose the oddest thing about them is the bedroom. I mean, even Morecambe and Wise slept in the same bed.
The primary emotion is that the poor fellow is unloved. And he feels unloved, and therefore he is constantly in a state of irritation.
You are aware of our rule about visitors, are you? No visitors in guests' rooms after 10 o'clock?
Oh.
Of the opposite sex?
No, I wasn't.
Ah.
But I am now. So you'll send up the champagne, will you?
What?
The champagne.
You're drinking it on your own, eh?
I guess I'll have to.
Very well. 1 bottle of champagne for one.
Thank you.
And 1 glass.
That's all I need, unless you care to join me.
No, thank you. Not when I'm on the job.
That's when I enjoy it the most.
Basil has a bee in his bonnet with Mr. Johnson because Mr. Johnson is obviously sexually successful. And Basil is jealous. Basil is jealous. And wants to bring him down.
This bit of crumpet's your old mummy, is she? Oh, this is rich. Oh, Mother Johnson popped up for a quickie, did she? May I meet her?
Certainly.
Mother Johnson, come out, wherever you are. How do you do? Are you enjoying your stay?
I thought the psychiatrist series, the episode was wonderful.
And you, Doctor, are you,
I'm a psychiatrist.
Very nice, too. Well, cheers.
We were both in group therapy at that time, family, marital group therapy. And whether, again, indirectly, the whole idea of having a psychiatrist in that episode and what it would do to Basil and all the sexual difficulties, that was just very funny.
There was the extraordinary encounter with the psychiatrist, where he thinks he's asking about how often he has sex. Now, the sort of sophisticated angle there is that Basil Fawlty is actually obsessed by sex, which he would be because he can't actually manage it in real life.
We were just speculating how people in your profession arrange their holidays, how often you can get away. How often do you manage it? How often can you and your wife manage it? You don't mind my asking?
Not at all. About average, since you asked.
Average?
Mm-hmm.
What would be average?
Well, you tell me.
Well, couple of times a year.
Once a year? Well, we knew it must be difficult. My wife didn't see how you could manage it at all.
Well, as you've asked, 2 or 3 times a week, actually.
A week?
Yes, pretty normal, isn't it? We're quite normal down here in Torquay, you know.
The vision of the...
Man, I remember, man. And that's so true. Like, I won't get into that. I'm just
man.
They bring back so many memories of it.
Oh, yeah.
Checking it out for the first time, man. I love it.
The two of them having sex is quite a nerve-wracking idea.
The state of Sybil and Basil's marriage was explored further in The Anniversary, although viewers would have to wait a little longer than expected to see this slice of insanity.
It was going very well, and the most extraordinary thing happened. There was a strike at the BBC because a rigger punched a BBC executive, and immediately it was all out. And he said, well, what's happening? And they said, well, we can't record tomorrow on strike.
The rigger was duly dismissed, and this being strike-ridden 1979, the BBC union swiftly took industrial action. Production staff downed tools and walked out for 7 days.
Oh, wow.
They came back, they said, it's been settled. We'll be recording again next week. The character eventually played by Ken Campbell was being played by a lovely actor called Julian Holloway. But Julian Holloway said, I can't do it next week. I've got another job, I can't get out of it. So, well, I said, what do we do? He said, well, we have to recast. So we brought Ken Campbell in, who was wonderful.
Yeah, I'll just get a brush. A Basil brush!
That wonderful character of Ken Campbell, it's needling Basil. And the way it builds, everyone's so concerned about Sybil. They've got to see Sybil, and it's excruciating the way it mounts, and the nuts and the wine. I think it's wonderful.
I don't know if you've ever seen the moulding up there, but one of... Oh, it's all right, don't worry, I'll clean it up.
What time's the main feature?
The nice thing was we had 2 weeks to rehearse it. You see, Ken was able to come in, the rest of us knew the part. And it was the one time that we really began to get relaxed because we'd done the lines enough times to really relax. And I think it has some of the best performing we ever did in that particular show.
Happy anniversary!
Oh, you poor dear! How are you feeling, dear?
Oh, it's a shame.
The anniversary is my least favourite episode because I'm in it, I think, and I can't bear looking at anything that I'm in. But also, I can see I was nervous because it is quite nerve-wracking being a guest on something, especially as something as great as that.
She won't mind me sing.
Oh, she would, I think she would.
Oh, but it's her anniversary. She's up there all on her own.
Old leg, bit of chip. Oh.
There's an extraordinarily sad moment when you see Sybil's vulnerability.
I came back from my clubs, Basil. I'm not staying.
Oh, aren't you? Okay.
What?
I'm sure you know best, dear.
You don't even want me to, do you?
Well, what's that?
I think the scene I look back on with great fondness is when they've had a fight and she's sort of trying to make it up. And you realise that actually she is emotionally quite dependent on him.
I'm going now, Basil. I think it's best, don't you?
All right, dear.
She's kind of trying to establish connection with Basil, but Basil is in the thralls of extreme embarrassment and only has one thought in mind, which is to get her out of the hotel before all the guests discover that she's not upstairs in bed at all, and that must be someone else.
Right, Basil.
Cheerio, dear.
I certainly sometimes found myself thinking, what is this woman doing with this man? I mean, why does she stick it out? Obviously, there is a deep-rooted affection that they have for each other. I mean, he knows his place, he needs a woman like that. They work so well together. I'm sure there's many marriages like that.
Do you remember when we were first manacled together? We used to laugh quite a lot.
Yes, but not at the same time, Basil.
It sounds terrible, probably, but I think I have to say that Basil and Sybil's marriage is like most marriages that I have observed in my 70 years.
We all make mistakes, dear.
They work together. They can never escape from each other.
You never ever learn! How on earth did the two of us ever get together? Black magic, my mother says.
Well, she'd know, wouldn't she?
The second series was due to come to the end of its illustrious run on the 2nd of April 1979.
Great fun.
But another bout of strike action threw production into jeopardy once more.
From tonight, the recording of drama and light entertainment will have to be suspended. As a result, some comedy shows have had to be cancelled, including the final episode of Fawlty Towers, which will now never be made.
Thankfully, this overzealous reporter got it wrong. The final episode was made, but it would take a full 6 months before Basil the Rat went to air.
What?
Coming up, problems of a furry kind cause havoc on set. Why this iconic sitcom stopped after just 2 series.
They offered John everything to do another series, and he said no.
And we go in search of the legendary lost episode.
What?
Man, this isn't just gonna get interesting this last 10 minutes here. Like, there's a lot of questions that I have about this that are gonna be answered. It's like, mainly, why was there not a 3rd series?
Yeah. I can't wait to see what he says.
Yeah.
Wow.
It took up just 6 hours of TV time, 12 perfect half-hour episodes, and even though it's been 30 years since it left our screens, this multi-award-winning sitcom is still regarded as the finest comedy ever written.
Not you! Could I get my hat? Your hat? Yes. It's just there. Yes, I'll have it sent on.
It's fitting that the best was saved till last. Although, owing to more strikes at the BBC, it would be a full 6 months before the final episode, Basil the Rat, aired.
Basil!
We had a sort of recap rehearsal, went into the studio on the Saturday, which we never ever did. And because we had the rats, it was the only scene that was ever pre-recorded, just in case there was somebody in the audience, or the crew, who had a real phobia about it.
Don't move. When I was told on the first day that I would be going into a studio and it would be a real rat that I'd be working with, I thought, oh, that's going to be interesting.
So that's 1 pate and 1 Windsor soup!
John would go to great lengths to make sure that all members of the crew and particularly the cast were comfortable, and John just got himself in her eye line and basically mugged at her to take her mind off the fact that there was a small furry rodent running around her feet.
I mean, how many people get John Cleese to themselves for a whole evening and just listening to funny stories? So it was fantastic deterrent to the fear of the rat.
What are you doing?
What?
He had his hand in my bag.
What? No, you know something. You're getting my gander up, you grotty little man. You're asking for a bunch of 5s.
Bomb scare.
What?
There's been a bomb scare.
A bomb scare? Yes.
Yes, that's why he was searching in your bag. He didn't want to alarm you.
May I?
Well, I don't really...
Just 1 moment. Thank you.
We had a call, you see.
Well, shouldn't you get everybody out?
Well, that's why we were looking under your table. We just didn't want to draw attention.
I think even the rat popping up in the biscuit box, which is still one of my favourite bits, and I know it doesn't look like a real rat, and that's part of its charm.
Biscuits. Would you care for a rat?
When we recorded the last episode, we knew it was the end. It was very sad, really. And a lot of people were saying, oh, don't worry, we'll be back in 4 years. We'll do Series 3 in 4 years. It'll be fine.
Fawlty Towers shut its doors for the last time on Thursday, the 25th of October, 1979. Its creators picked up another 2 BAFTAs for Best Sitcom and Best Comedy Performance by Cleese. And Basil duly handed over the comedy baton to his successors.
No, now listen, I'm not going to do it this week. Well, you've got to have something. I mean, what about edited motocross highlights? Or Horse of the Year show, or inter-counties basket weaving or something. Well, how about a cheap tatty review? All right, that suits you. Cheap tatty review, then. Stand by and shoot.
They offered John everything to do another series, and he said no, that we had 2 series of 6. And if you do a 3rd series, and it's not as good as the other 2, you then devalue the currency of the first 2.
Although only a dozen shows were ever aired, rumours persist of a legendary lost episode lurking in a dusty BBC building somewhere.
I have it at home, and for a small fee can be persuaded to send it to you by mail order. No, we have a lovely idea. 13th episode.
Unless it was made by an entirely different team, there is no 13th episode.
No, we wrote 6 in the first series and 6 in the second, and then Connie and I looked at each other and we thought we'd done it. We didn't want to have that pressure to be as good again. We would have failed. People would have said it was very funny, but it wasn't as good as the first 2 series, so what was the point of doing it?
I said, would you ever think of writing some more? He said, yeah, I suppose I could. I said, key question, would you do it without Connie? He said, no. And I think her contribution was much bigger than people believe.
I think it was absolutely right, true, that we, covering the 2 taboo subjects, we'd done it, and it felt like there were, 3 sort of situations within each half hour, so it felt like a lot more than 12 episodes, I think. I don't think by then John and I could have gone on working together. I think we felt we'd done it.
30 years after this hopeless hotel closed up for good, Fawlty Towers retains an affectionate place in the hearts of the British nation. And in 2008, fans were treated to a reunion of Basil and Manuel as they made a rare royal outing.
Well, I'm fond of Andrew, and somebody suggested that it would be good, in view of what had happened with Jonathan Ross and the other guy. The audience would like to see us together or something, and it worked very well emotionally.
What is the 11th letter of the English alphabet?
K. John rang me up and said, would I come on, just do a brief entry as Manuel. I can't very well say no to John anyway, because he's so much bigger than me.
Now run for it, you stupid...
I thought the outflowing of love that evening was so wonderful, and you could tell it with him as well. And I said to him afterwards, I said, that was the old John, wasn't he? He said, what do you mean the old John? I said, you should be back here, mate. He always feels that Michael Palin's become a national institution, and he would have done if he'd stayed. Not that he's jealous of Michael, they're still great friends.
Tantalising though it was to have Basil back, what the public craves is for Fawlty Towers to open its doors once more for another series.
I was constantly being asked by the public, are there going to be any more? That's the favourite question of fans. How are they going to be? Is John going to write some more?
My only sadness is that they didn't go on to write at least another 12. Then we could have had 24 to watch and watch and watch.
The only idea that Connie and I ever had for an extension of Basil was that Manuel has left and set up an establishment in Spain, and Sybil and Basil decide that they're going to go and visit him, which I think would be fun. And I thought that what happened was Basil has the usual appalling experience at Heathrow or some other terminal where a hijacker tries to hijack the flight, and Basil becomes so furious that he actually overcomes the hijacker and becomes a hero.
I've been 52, 53 years on stage, and yet Fawlty Towers, that full 9 minutes in one episode of The Builders, makes me recognised anywhere in the world.
A number of episodes in Fawlty Towers, I think, were pretty close to perfection in comedy, and I've never ever got that myself. That's why I said, I'll never get that, I'll give up.
I was delighted to have been part of Fawlty Towers. It was a lovely job.
I think I did my very best with it, and it was a bloody good episode.
I just think it was absolutely the best of its kind and the best of its time. You know, it stands out from practically everything else going on at the time.
Knowing that you're going to go to work and laugh and laugh and laugh and laugh, even though you'd seen the joke many times before. And to say, oh, I'm going to work today, I shall be drained of stomach muscles by midday. That's a terrific feeling. Well, what Connie and I tried to do in comedy is make people laugh as much as possible. That's what I love. I love the intensity because that brings the biggest laughter.
I suppose it felt kind of like a freak event in our lives. Yes, I'm incredibly proud to have been associated with it.
But I think the main quality it had, it was so bloody good.
Out! Everybody out! Come on upstairs, pack your bags, adios, out!
Perfect. Oh, that was Stephen Fry narrating that. I thought I recognized that voice.
Man, it's bittersweet. It's bittersweet.
Automatic 50 thumbs up here.
Man.
Man. It's funny that back then they said they would never write one, but now there's, we've talked about the potential reboot. John Cleese writing with his daughter, setting it in the Caribbean, and
yeah, that's the only way it could work is if it changes scene, changes characters, different stage in life.
Yeah. Completely different era. This was the 70s that this was made, and now it's the 2020s.
Yeah. And I think it possibly could work. But not holding my breath.
Right. And it's like the question of would it tarnish the legacy of the original Fawlty Towers? Because that's why John Cleese and I forgot her name. Not Prunella. Connie
Booth.
Connie Booth. That's why they didn't make another one, in addition to the fact that they just couldn't stand working with each other anymore.
Well, I don't know, man. I think it could work. Because, see, now this is going to, there's a tiny soap, not box, but step. You have to introduce the new generations to the classics. And a new Fawlty Towers would be a good, let's call it a cover of an original.
Yeah, like when, and I don't mean to compare it to that, it's like when Weezer covered Africa, when Luke Combs covered Fast Car.
Yep.
Just kind of like that. And to kind of keep on the British train of classics, I think of the Beatles. In the 90s, they did the anthology series with 3 new songs with John Lennon basically singing from his grave. 2 of them got out. Now there's rumors of Paul McCartney putting out the 3rd Beatle reunion song because they've got an AI technology to clean up some of the things that made it not be able to be released. And the question is, would putting out a new Beatles song in, say, 2023 or 2024 tarnish their legacy? It's kind of the same argument with Fawlty Towers.
I don't think, because there's one thing about a true fan wants to further the legacy. Yeah. A true fan of Fawlty Towers would want to see the brand go further and reach more people. And like with any cover of, let's say, a song, makes your interest peak up and go look for the original.
Right.
And just in that moment, a new generation of people will be interested in Fawlty Towers, just like that. So I say they really have nothing left to lose, and there's no way that anything tarnishes Fawlty Towers legacy.
Which makes me think of I would love to see on these streaming sites like there was a Fresh Prince reboot, there was a Friends reboot, there was a Frasier reboot.
Yeah,
I would be interested to see if that drew attention and more interest in the originals of all of them, because that would help me answer the hypothetical if and when Fawlty Towers does get rebooted, what the effect will be on the OG series.
Yeah, I think that you couldn't ever view a new Fawlty Towers with the old Fawlty Towers lens.
Oh, hell no.
And you would have to understand that going in. There would have to be a old-timey disclaimer before the first episode even touched the air. Warning to all you proper fans of Fawlty Towers. This is the new Fawlty Towers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Oh, man.
But hey, Fawlty Towers fans, thanks for sticking with us.
Yes.
Hope you enjoyed this one last hurrah of Fawlty Towers.
Yeah.
We were able to give 13 uploads of Fawlty Towers, unlike the OG cast of Fawlty Towers.
I know, right? Love that.
Anyway,
Man.
y'all, thanks for watching. So around to subscribe and watch another video. Wash your hands, scrub your toes, wipe your ass, blow your nose, embrace the suck.
Unplug and do something legendary, guys.
And don't mention the war.
Never.
See y'all next time.
Later.
Fellas, we could be that